So I will start with area number 1. Area number 1 is, in terms of the methods, is relatively difficult. But after I explain the method to you, you will find the area number 1 is the easiest. Area number 1 is the easiest. Okay, so I explain to you, and then I give you the methods. So when you come to exam, you may have forgotten what you understood, but you know how to do. You know how to do. Okay, So most important actually, then later on it will be the methods. Your exam, we don't have choice. So we understand, and then we have the method. So actually, area number 1, in the beginning you think it's difficult, but it's not. It is not. Once you understand, it's very easy. The most difficult one actually is area 2 and area 3. These two, they are the most difficult. In fact, I think area 3 is the most difficult, but we have methods. We will go through systematically. We have methods. Right, so no worry. So let's start with the mind map number 1. Exchange rate. So think of exchange rate Vietnam dong against US dollar, Vietnam dong against Singapore dollar, Singapore dollar against Hong Kong dollar, Hong Kong against Vietnam dong. That's the exchange rate. So it's always between two countries or between two currencies. And this rate here changes. The rate changes. So we say that it changes means there are uncertainty. Okay, So then we say that because exchange rate change, you have uncertainty. We say you have risk. You have risk. Okay, So sometimes we use risk and uncertainty interchange. Uncertainty. Okay, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened with the dong against the US dollar. Will it keep going down or go up and so on? Right, So you can think of it as, because the rate is uncertain, it gives rise to risk. So uncertainty gives rise to risk. So what is uncertain? What is uncertain is always later. Now we know. Now we are certain. Yesterday we are certain also. Today we are certain also. But what is uncertain is tomorrow. Tomorrow we don't know. Okay, tomorrow we don't know what happened to the exchange rate. Next year we don't know what happened. So we are uncertain is talking about always is later. Later. So uncertainty, sometimes we say you have risk. So when we talk about risk here, we are uncertain, we are actually referring to something like we are losing. So when we talk about risk, our focus is always risk of loss. Risk of loss. Okay, tomorrow I don't know what will happen. If it turns out to be good, of course you are happy. But you're worried about if you lose something. So our concern always is risk of loss. Of course, uncertainty also you may be gain, but we don't focus on the gain. So we ask ourselves here, if exchange rate change in such a way that we have a loss, what are we going to do about it? If dong going to depreciate, it will affect a company, what are you going to do about it? That about to do with it, we call it hedging, hedge. You need some kind of protection. If you are losing something, you need some kind of protection. If you think that you may have accident, you buy insurance. You buy insurance to protect yourself. So So when we talk about risk here, we always talk about hedge, protection, protection, some kind of protection. So the protection may be in the form of offsetting your loss. So you may want to have something to compensate for your loss, or you may have something to guarantee you achieve something. So that is a hedge. A hedge actually is like to protect yourself, to cover yourself, to cover yourself. Okay, yeah? So you get the idea first. Risk, so it may be because exchange rate change, and the next part may be interest rate change, or it may be the share price change, or it may be your income change. How do you hedge about all these things here? Right? Yeah? So the question we want to ask here is, if exchange rate change, or if a company is say facing this exchange rate changes here, what are they going to do? So the first thing is we ask this question here is, if exchange rate change, how will it affect the company? How will it affect the company? That's a question we want to ask. In other words, is we want to know a company will expose to what exchange rate risk. Three of them. First one, translation. First one, translation. If a company need to do a translation, they will have this translation risk or translation exposure. Okay, yeah? What type of company? A company which have a subsidiary overseas. Subsidiary overseas. So they have asset or liability. Okay, yeah? In foreign currency. Asset or liability in foreign currency. Then that company will have a translation exposure or translation risk. So imagine that the Vietnam company, you have asset in London. You have asset in London. So that asset will be denominated in terms of the pound, foreign currency. So example, 10 million pound, 10 million pound. So if there changes in the exchange rate, example, pound gone down in value, pound depreciate. So your asset of 10 million pound still the same. But when you translate to Vietnam dong, the amount in terms of dong gone down. We say you have the risk of loss here because the asset in terms of dong has gone down because of the translation. Okay, yeah? So your risk here is your asset in terms of the Vietnam dong home currency gone down. There's a risk of loss here. Risk of loss here. Your asset gone down in home currency, or of course your liability gone up. All liability increases in home currency. So that is your risk of loss. So this type of company will have translation exposure. Translation exposure. So normally it will happen to multinational company where they have foreign subsidiary. Foreign subsidiary. So then we ask this question, how to hedge? How to hedge? Very simple, one method only. Hedging. You match the asset and the liability using the same foreign currency. That means if your asset in terms of pound, your liability also in terms of pound. So let's say that the pound depreciates. Your asset gone down, they have a loss. Your liability also gone down. Liability gone down actually is a gain. So it's some kind of offsetting. So you have liability that gain, asset here is a loss. So the gain here offsetting the loss, provided you use the same foreign currency. So pound asset, pound liability. Euro asset, euro liability. So when you net it or offsetting here, you reduces your loss. Some kind of protection, hedging, one method only. Okay, if you use a different foreign currency, no guarantee. Example, let's say your asset is in pound asset, euro liability. So it may happen that pound gone down, asset gone down in dong, but euro may have depreciated. So in terms of the dong, your liability may also go up. So you have loss in the asset, you have loss in the liability, cannot. So understand this one. Okay, it must be same foreign currency. One method only, matching. We call this one internal methods. Internal means the company can make a decision whether they want to match or not. Internal methods. Translation, only internal methods. Company can make a decision to match or don't match, to hedge the translation exposure. Normally discussion only. Understand? You use a chat GPT and come up with other answer for your explanation also can. But the whole idea is like this. Later on in the revision, I will go through with you also some calculation to illustrate this one. Not so important, but at least you must understand. Once you understand, you can write it out. Here, there's a first exposure. Exchange rate change, company may have translation exposure. Exchange rate change, company may also have economic exposure. Okay, your currency become more expensive, less people come to Vietnam. Vietnam business will be affected, all company business affected. So that's called economic exposure or economic risk. Sales or business of a company affected. For this one here, all the company will be affected. For this one here, multinational company will be affected. Okay, so economic exposure, it will affect every company. In fact, everyone also. Right, so even if your company don't have import export, your company may be affected. Even the small hawker store or small coffee shop in Vietnam also be affected if Vietnam dong go up. There are less people come here and spend money. So your business will be affected also. Right, So the risk of loss will be sales will gone down, profit gone down, you have less profit, you have losses and so on. Hedging, one method only. Okay, you try to diversify your sales or business. Okay, if possible in many countries. So you may want to export it to many places. Export to Singapore, to US, to China, to Malaysia, and so on. So because dong against US, dong may have gone down, but dong against Singapore may have gone up. Okay, so some part of the sales gone down, some part of the sales go up. So the sales go up, offsetting the sales go down. Okay, so you have profit here, you have losses here, or less profit here, more profit here to do the offsetting. So you can only use one that is diversify your business. Offsetting. Okay, profit, offset loss, etc. So again, this one is company decision, internal methods. Okay, matching internal methods, yeah. Second exposure, all company affected. What is the difference between the first one and second one? The first one is your account figure affected only. Account figure affected only. Book value affected only. Okay, so the first one, if you don't want to hedge, is okay, because this is only the bookkeeping value. The second one actually will affect the cash flow of the company. So in finance, we say that the accounting figure not important. The important one is a cash flow because company has more cash, it's more value. So this one don't hedge is okay. This one definitely we will have to do hedging. Okay, so there's a difference between this one and this one. This is cash flow. This one is bookkeeping figure or book value. Okay, this one is a cash value. Second one. The last one is the most important. It's called transaction exposure. It's the most important one. This transaction here, we are talking about international transaction. Import, export. Okay, import, you have to make a payment. So if you pay in Vietnam dong, no problem. But if you have to pay in foreign currency, and your payment will be tomorrow or 3 months later, there will be uncertainty there. So you may end up paying more Vietnam dong. Okay, or your receipt in foreign currency, you may end up receiving less money in Vietnam dong. Okay, so transaction exposure, we're talking about import transaction, export transaction. Okay, and it has to be in foreign currency. In foreign currency, in foreign currency. Okay, so the risk will be your payment will go up or your receipt will go down in your currency, home currency there. So they're talking about risk of loss. Pay more, receive less. But your payment and receipt of foreign currency remains the same. It's only because exchange rate change, you end up paying more or receiving less in your currency. Your company can make decision to handle this one, internal hedge. Internal hedge. 3 ways. Try to invoice in home currency if you are powerful enough. When you make payment, you want to pay in Vietnam dong. When you receive, you want to receive in Vietnam dong. That means invoice in home currency. Okay, then you reduce your exposure. That's one way. Second one is matching like this one. Okay, so if you pay in pound, you want to receive in pound also. So that net off. So after you match the currency, you do a netting to cut down the exposure. So for this netting here, company can do a netting, or a few company can do a netting. We call them multilateral. We will handle this one later on in the illustration. Here, last one is a leading or lagging. That means to say that you normally this one refer to a payment only. You want to pay earlier or you want to pay later to cut down your loss. Okay, you can pay earlier or you can pay later, right? To cut down on your losses. Say that you want to pay in 3 months, you can pay in 1 month. That's called leading, or you can pay in 4 months. Okay, that is later. So why do you want to pay earlier? Because you think that you pay later, you pay more. Better you pay now. You pay now, or you pay in 1 month. Not only you pay earlier, you pay less, you may also have cash discount. Right? So why do you want to pay later? If you pay later, you may end up with your dong gone up. Your gone up, you pay less. Right? So you have to decide. You have to decide on this one here. So that is called internal hedge. Company can make decision. After you have done the internal hedge, then you can go outside. You can go outside. That's called external. So translation, economic, transaction, all got internal. But transaction also got external. That is the only one got external. That means you go outside, agree with outside company. Okay, that's external. Basically, you sign a contract. Okay, and this contract here involving exchange rate, they are all currency contract except one. So these are the currency contracts. Currency contract. So when we're talking about contracts, it has to be two party. Your company be another company. Okay, so where can we get this contract from? Naturally, you think of the bank. Okay, so one, it is from the bank. Right, So the bank's contract, because the bank has got counter, a bank has a counter. So this contract you deal over the counter. So bank contract, they are also known as over the counter contracts. OTC means over the counter. You deal over the counter. Okay, you get this contract here. And where else can you get this contract from? You can get it from like a stock exchange. So we call them the organized exchange. And this organized exchange here, this contract, we call them traded contracts. Because this contract here can be traded. That means you can buy, you can sell. So they are known as traded contracts. So currency contract may be over the counter from the bank, or it may be traded. Right? So whether it's over the counter or the traded contracts, just remember the contract will always have expiry. Just like you go and rent a house, you have a rental agreement. So the contract may expire. So you may sign for 1 year, you may sign for 2 years, the contract will have expiry. So when a contract expire, your exchange of currency. Contract expire, there will be exchange of currency. Whether it is over the counter or it is traded contracts. Right? So we will go through the bank's contract first. Okay, bank's contract, it is due personally. So everything is negotiable. You can negotiate with the bank. The rate, the expiry, okay, and it is always one contract. Very important. You go to the bank, you get one contract only. So I put down here one. One contract only. Everything is negotiable. You negotiate for the amount you want to hedge. Remember, it's transaction exposure. Okay, you negotiate the expiry. Okay, and you can negotiate whether you want to have option or not. Everything negotiable. Everything is negotiable. So when the contract expires, remember, exchange the currency. So what are the contracts here? All the over-the-counter I put down here. First one is called forward. Second one is called option. The third one is a swap. So there are three over-the-counter. OTC, OTC, OTC. Except one. That's called money market. Okay, so we'll go through basically forward, option, money market, and this one we come back later. This one after interest rate swap. After this one. So in the second mind map, we have the interest rate swap. So after we have gone through interest rate swap, then we come back to the currency swap. Okay, get a big picture first. Then we go into detail. And in dealing with the contracts or in dealing with the exchange rate, I will first start with the exchange rate. This will be extremely important. You may have your own methods, but I'm going to give you my methods, and I'm going to explain to you, and then I tell you my methods. If you think it's good, use it. If you think it's no good, don't use it. All right, but I always believe that anyone that follow my methods, they can do the question very fast. No mistake. The best thing is no mistake. Right, because if you think on your own, chances is you don't have methods. You think on your own, you may get confused in the exam. Right, so I'm going to show it to you. So this is just a summary. We'll go into the detail. And in the exchange rate also, this forward rate, they may ask you to calculate. We handle later in the revision. This one we handle in the area number 2, where we use inflation to forecast the future exchange rate. Right, so remember, this is just a summary for you. We will now go into the detail. So this is mind map number 1. So we can now go to set number 2. Go to set number 2. I will explain to you transaction. I will explain to you the exchange rate. Then I will start with forward contract and option, and then go into illustration for money market. Right, then we finish over the counter. Let's go to set number 2.